All right, so here we have the equation. 2 equals negative 3 minus c divided by 3. There's a lot of negative signs here. We got fractions with variables. Yeah, so this actually might scare off a lot of people up front. So what I want to show you is this: you don't need to be scared about this. Just come back to these simple rules that I have here over on the left, and you're going to be fine. So we're going to kind of stick to these and work with that. Remember that we always have to get rid of the constant first, and then we'll get rid of the coefficients. Remember, constants are the numbers that are just by themselves, or are constantly alone. They have no variable next to them. That would be this negative 3 right here. That's a constant. The reason why it is a constant is because the variable is c, and c is touching this divide by 3, right? So let's get rid of this negative 3 here. And the way we get rid of a minus or a negative 3 is by doing its opposite. The opposite, or the inverse of minus, is addition. So I'm going to add to both sides of the equation with the addition property of equality. We'll be adding 3 to both sides. I'm not going to do anything more than that. I'm just going to write everything out as I've done it now. 2 plus 3 is 5. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0, so I don't have to write anything, but I do have this other term over here. That other term is negative. A lot of people like to forget that negative, so I'm going to bring that down. Negative c divided by 3. All right. Now I have successfully finished getting rid of the constant, this constant right here. So now I'm going to move on to getting rid of the coefficient. Okay. This coefficient is a little bit different. If I asked you, you actually might say the coefficient is 3 or negative 3. That's actually not the case. Just because it's right next to c, or the variable we're looking for, doesn't make it the coefficient. So I'm going to kind of sidetrack for a second. If I wrote 3c, 3 would be the coefficient. If I wrote 1/3 c, 1/3 would be the coefficient. But you'll also note that 1/3 c is c divided by 3. Those are actually the same numbers. So what is the coefficient here to negative c over 3? Well, it actually would be negative 1/3. So the question is still, how do we get rid of this negative sign, and how do we get rid of this divide by 3? Well, we can start easy with this. What's the opposite of divide? Multiply. So we're going to multiply both sides by 3. 3 times 5 is 15. And these 3's will cancel out. And that leaves me with a negative c. Remember that coefficient that sits in front of it. It's a negative 1. And normally I say you don't have to write that. In this case, I want it to be there because it's a negative 1. C is not alone. We have to get rid of this negative 1. How do we do that, though? Well, remember that multiply sign that's sitting right in between those. This is actually negative 1 times c. So now we're going to get rid of multiply by dividing both sides by negative 1. These negative 1's will cancel each other out because negative 1 divided by negative 1 is a positive 1. Bring down that c, which I have not touched yet. 15 divided by negative 1 is negative 15. And really what we have here is c equals negative 15, or you can say that c equals negative 15. Those are the same thing. And then we go back and we will check our work. Start with my original equation. 2 equals negative 3 minus c divided by 3. We are going to replace or substitute c for negative 15. 2 equals negative 3 divided by, get that negative 15 up there, divided by 3. And now we have to do our order of operations to simplify. So we're going to move from left to right. There are parentheses, but there's nothing inside I can do. There are no exponents, but there is some multiplication and division. No multiplication, but there is division right here. Negative 15 divided by 3. Negative 15 divided by 3 is a negative 5. And now we have a negative and a negative right here. I'm going to rewrite this so it makes sense. A minus a negative is actually a plus a positive. So I'm just going to rewrite this because two negatives make a positive to be 2 equals negative 3 plus 5. All my multiplication and division is done. Now I have to do I have to do all of our addition and subtraction. 2 equals negative 3 plus 5 is 2. Does 2 equal 2? Yes, it does. This is my proof to show that all of my work is correct and that C equals negative 15.